Hello friends, today's video is about adjusting the tappets for your Interceptor 650. You are supposed to adjust it at the first 500 kilometers and then for every 10,000 kilometers. And I didn't get it adjusted through the service center because I don't think they do a good job. And the reason why these tappets needs to be adjusted is because of this. You see this is a representation of the inside of the head, and you see a curved dome which is the head, and you see an inlet valve and an exhaust valve, and there is something called as a valve seat. So the valve doesn't go and directly touch your cast alloy head. There is a valve seat pressed into it, and your valve goes and touches that, and your rocker arm sits on top of this valve and pushes the valve in, and when it releases, because of the spring, the valve comes out. As this material is new, there is something called the permanent set, or I don't know what the right term is. So when this valve keeps going in and out, it hammers on this valve seat, and there is a slight reduction in the height. So initially, when the company manufactured the motorbike, if your valve seat was sitting here, after 500 kilometers it will start to sit here, but after 10,000 kilometers it may still be sitting here. But initially there will be an initial crush of the valve seat, and because of that the valve will start protruding out, because the valve can move higher up, and because of that your valve clearance with your rocker arm will change, especially in a new bike. So this is why it is very important for you to check the tappet clearance for a new bike. The numbers as per Royal Enfield are 0.08 millimeters for the inlet and 0.18 millimeters for the exhaust. So I hope you understand that, you understand why we need to check the tappet clearance. And I want to tell you that it's not so difficult, and it's not so, yes, it is tedious, I give you that. So something can be tedious, it can take a long time, but that doesn't mean it is difficult. So you can try it if you have the inclination, and it's very satisfying. I know that I've checked my own valve time, not timing, my own tappet clearance, and I'm quite happy about it, and I'm not dependent on the service center, and the next 10,000 kilometers I can ride it without any fear, and then I can check it again. Hello friends, so I'm going to do my tappet clearance adjustment. My bike has done 500 kilometers, and the service station, I mean, the less I say about it, the better it is. So I'm going to do the mandated tappet clearance check and adjustment. So for that, the first step is to remove the tank. Okay. So there are two 10 mm bolts holding the tank, and before I proceed to work on the tank, I'm going to cover the tank from any damage that I may accidentally cause. So after I have removed the two 10 mm bolts with the collar washer, I have to disconnect the tank from the fuel pump and all the electronics. So I'll show you how that is done. So before you proceed to disconnect the tank, you need some pieces of wood like this. Okay, I don't know which one I'm going to use, but I just collected 3 of them that was lying here. And once you disconnect those 2 bolts, your tank will come up. So I'm just going to support the tank here like this. Can you see it? So now I have some clearance to go underneath and see what's happening underneath. So if you notice, there is a hose here. There is a hose on the other far end, and this is a connector. So these are the first things I see as soon as I lift up the tank here. These 3 things. So I'm going to try and disconnect those 3 things. Okay. 1, 2, okay, this is difficult for me to show you, so I'm going to disconnect and show it to you after I disconnect it. So this is the 3rd thing I've disconnected. Okay, so 1 black pipe on this side, 1 black pipe on the far side, and this I think is the sender unit or the control unit for the fuel pump. I hope you understand why you need this block of wood. Now I'm going to lift this up and put another block of wood underneath, a small one, to see what is happening further down. Okay, the next thing I have to disconnect is this thing. Can you see that? I'm touching it with the nail of my index finger. That is the petrol line that goes to this common rail that feeds the injectors. Okay, so I have to disconnect this thing. It's very difficult for me to show it to you, but I can show it to you after I disconnect it. This is the one. So I need both my hands to do it, so I'm going to try and put both my hands inside, and it's going to be difficult for me to do it with so there is a press type thing on either side, so I press on it and I have to pull it, so I can't do it from this angle. So I've managed to disconnect it. It's here, and the proof of that is there is petrol spilling on my starter motor. So it spilled out from that connector. So far I have disconnected 4 things, and there is only one more thing I need to disconnect, which is the sender unit for the fuel gauge. Now I'm going to show you the final thing I have to disconnect. This would be so much easier if I was not filming, but let's see if I can. There is a green thing over there. This is what I have to disconnect. So the point I'm trying to make is, if you keep supporting this end, see, now I have added one more piece of wood. If you keep supporting this end more and more, you can easily access all the things as you proceed forward. Okay, so it's easy peasy. I have disconnected it, and now I have to lift this tank up with 13 liters of petrol. It's really dumb of me to have filled the tank. Just before wanting to do this. So now this is the problem. Don't do this. Don't do what I did. So now I have to be really careful about lifting the tank up, and I'm going to put it away in a really safe place. Okay, so now I managed to remove the tank and it's in a safe place. like that, because that's what makes the bike beautiful, and I am vain. I want my bike to look beautiful. So the things that I disconnected are, I'll show you. 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Right? These are the 5 things I have disconnected. Next I am going to disconnect these 2 horns, because I have to do it to have enough room to work on it. So when you remove the horn, don't remove it from here. Remove it here, because number 1, you need the room here, and number 2, this comes from the factory, the horn factory. So there is a setting that the factory has made to the horn to make it sound the optimum. So you are not supposed to adjust this. So this is the nut you have to remove on this side as well as the other side. Of course you have to remove the connectors, so on and so forth. And I've already removed the suppressor caps. So I've removed both the horns from here. The next step is to loosen these 3 screws from the ABS. This is the ABS control unit. Okay, I'm just going to remove these 2 screws and loosen the screw. So what I've done is I've removed these 2 screws and loosened this screw. Okay, and this whole thing lifts up like it's on a tray, right? And it creates some gap underneath, which will be very useful for me to work. This is the whole idea, to just loosen this and lift it up to a thickness of your finger. Okay, so the next step is to remove these 4 bolts. Okay, these are collar bolts. I'll show you what they are when I open them. And I have not yet removed my spark plugs, because that's the last thing I want to remove. To accidentally, I may put something in accidentally, and that is a catastrophe, right? I don't want to do that. So to minimize the chances of that, I'm going to remove it at the end, and as soon as I finish my job, that is the first thing I will put back in, because if something goes into my cylinder, then I am, you know what. Whenever you tighten or loosen something, it's always a good practice, at least for the first few threads when you loosen, and the last few threads when you tighten, to go across and loosen them evenly or tighten them evenly. Okay, maybe this needs a spanner and not a ratchet, this side. Things are much tighter on this side. Okay, good. I got some traction here. Now I want to, yes. Okay. Super. Now I am just loosening them evenly. Like so. Okay, so now I've loosened all these 4 bolts, and now with the plug spanner provided with the Royal Enfield toolkit, I put it in and take a 12 mm spanner given by Royal Enfield, but this is not exactly 12 mm. I checked it, this is Royal Enfield's 12 mm. So it fits here and you can open your spark plug. Okay, so let's see how my spark plugs look. So my spark plug looks a nice tan color, which is good, and my bike has done only 500 kilometers, so I don't expect any oil leaks or anything like that. And when I say oil leaks, I mean from the cylinder, from the crankcase to the cylinder is what I mean. So this is good, and I am going to repeat the same thing on the other side, but I have an idea, maybe it will work, maybe it won't work, but I am going to loosely place the spark plugs here, like so. Let's see if it can still have enough leak for me to turn the crank around. Let's see. So I have removed the other side spark plug also and installed it in a way where it is loose, like that. Now I am going to see if I can put this in first gear and spin the rear wheel and make the crank move. Or is the compression still too high? If it is high, then I will remove the spark plug. If not, I will work with the plug on. Okay, it's not moving. So now I am going to remove the plugs and see how it goes. Okay, now I have removed the plug. I've just put it there. And let's see if I can make the crank turn. No way. Okay, so now I found out the trick. I can make the crank turn, it just doesn't want to turn in first gear. Okay. Or else I have to remove this and put a 17-inch socket inside and turn the crank counterclockwise. I don't want to do that. I can turn the crank when the bike is in gear, and by rotating the wheel in the direction of normal motion, like that. So now I have loosened all these 4 bolts. These are collar bolts, and you can see why they are called collar bolts. They have a collar, right? So what is critical for me is to make sure that these bolts go in their own place. So I am going to kind of keep them distinctly, and as soon as I remove the rocker cover, I am going to put them back in their positions. So there is a gasket here which I have to carefully remove. And place it back on the cylinder head. So now I have removed the gasket. I'll try to take out the rocker cover now. So that's it. So because I removed the horn and all the things that Royal Enfield asked me to do, now this has come out well. Now I'm going to place, I don't know if you're able to see it, I'm going to place those collar bolts right here because they go into the rocker bearing. And this is made of aluminum and this is too important for me to have any thread mismatch. So I'm just going to put them as I took them out. Let me show you what I mean. I don't know if you can see that, but I know which one goes where now. So I had placed it in the same order on the chair and now I have replaced it in the same order. Okay, the next step is to remove this gasket from the cylinder head. I've removed it everywhere, but see, it is sticking here. So I have to kind of struggle with it a little bit to get it out of this inspection hole. Okay, let me thread this in temporarily. So you need to fight with it a little bit to get it out. Okay, it's coming out now. Yeah, super. So now this gasket is off and Royal Enfield has put some silicone paste there, which I will put again when I put this gasket back in. Okay, now comes the interesting part. I'll show it to you. Okay friends, now do you see these two markings here? One here and one here. It means something, right? One is marked L as in left, the other one is marked R as in right, correct? So this is the left hand cylinder on this side. On this side is the left hand cylinder and on the other side is the right hand cylinder. As you sit on the bike is how you should look at it. Okay, and the idea is to match this line with this line between the top and bottom journal bearings. You see there is a line here. This line should match with this line. Okay, so let's see if we can do it. Again I have to unscrew this because I had screwed in the. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to rotate the rear wheel till it matches. Okay, if I have to do it the proper way, I have to remove this with a 14 mm Allen key and then put in a 17 mm socket into the crank. It goes and connects to the crankshaft and I turn the crankshaft counterclockwise. Some people say you can turn it clockwise as well, it doesn't matter, but I don't have a 14 mm Allen key and I don't want to buy it, so I'm just going to rotate the rear wheel in 4th gear. That's what I'm going to do. Okay friends, so now do you see this marking L, and that line is in alignment with this line. So this means that I can check the clearance of the left side cylinder. There are 4 valves, and here you see a marking L. I don't know if you can see it, but it's there. There is an L and an R. You can clearly see the R. Let me go to the other side and see if you can see the L. Yeah. Okay. Super. So now that is in alignment with the place where both the journal bearings meet, and now it is time for me to check the alignment for the left cylinder. Okay. This has to be done when the engine is stone cold. Right, so this is why I don't want to get it done at the service center, and they don't have the patience for the kind of work that I expect, and even if they do, I'll doubt it. This is my attitude, so I'm going to do it myself. So the clearance is 0.08 millimeters for the inlet valves, which is on this side. So these are the inlet valves on the side of your injector, and the exhaust valves are obviously on the side of your exhaust, on the side of your silencer pipes, right? So for this it has to be 0.18 millimeters, the gap here, and this gap should be 0.08 millimeters. So let me check how they are. So here I have the feeler gauge, and it is 0.08 mm here, or 0.003 inches, 3 thou. Okay, so it's not going in, which means that the inlet valves are, at least one valve is tight. Okay, this one is tight too. It kind of goes in, it bites, but this one, it doesn't go in. So let's see what the clearance is. If it is not 0.08, let me try 0.04 and see if I have, just for my own education, okay? Okay, I'm having like 3 of them together. That's the problem. All of them are stuck together like this. So this is 0.04. Let me try 0.04. Okay, 0.04 gets in to one of these, one side. There are 2 inlet valves and 2 exhaust valves, right? So 0.04 gets in here. Okay, it's really difficult for me to work with the camera, so let me see. Okay, 0.04 goes in there too. Yes. So now I am going to try again 0.08, which is the specification. No way. 0.08 is a no-go. No. I'll try on the other side and see if I can put in a 0.08 there. No chance. I don't know if you can see it, but it's a no-go on the other side too. So this means that both the inlet valves are tight now, and I'll tell you why they are tight. Okay friends, I have now adjusted the inlet side to 0.08, and the way to do it is, I couldn't get it all on camera because I operate alone. I am the mechanic as well as the cameraman. So what you do is, you put a 10 millimeter spanner on one of these brass nuts, okay, and then there is a slot for you to hold the top of the screw with a screwdriver. Okay, so what you do is, you need this kind of an arrangement. So what you do is, you loosen this nut and then you slowly loosen this or tighten this to the required, till you get the required gap, and then once you get the required gap, you hold on to this, you hold on to the screwdriver firmly, and then you tighten this nut to lock the screw in place. So I hope that makes sense. The first step is to loosen this brass nut and then use the screwdriver to either back off or tighten. If there is too much gap, you tighten it. If there is too little gap, you back it off, and after you back it off, you hold that position, and then with this, of course it will be like this, and with this you lock this nut. So that is how you do it. So here too you can do it from the top, right? So now I have 0.08 on the inlet for the left hand side. You can see this. I don't know if you can make it out, but it says 0.08 mm. Yeah, I think it's upside down, but so the inlet is good. Now I have to check for the exhaust, which is 0.18 mm. Okay, so now I don't know if you can see this. This is 0.18 mm. This is a little bit too loose, so I'm just going to tighten it just a little bit. It's not so loose, but I am a little bit like I'm a little bit anal about these things. Okay, I think it's okay. No, it's loose. Okay, so it should not be like this, it should drag. So I'm going to tighten it. Okay, now this is good. Or maybe it's a little bit too tight. Okay, this is the problem with these things. Okay, now this is good. 0.18, it drags. Now this one seems a little bit too loose, so maybe I need to back that one off, but this will drive you mad. Okay, I think it's good. So I've adjusted the left side exhaust and I'm going to tighten it in place. That's it. And after tightening it, I'll recheck it, because every little thing makes everything move. Okay, so it's loose, little bit loose than I would like. No, not really. And the other one drags well, so that's good. Maybe I should tighten this one. See, this is why I want to do it, because no mechanic is going to do it like I'm going to do it. He's just going to say, that's good enough. Oh yes, now it drags good. You have to feel a drag on it. Wonderful. And when it always comes out of the edge, it will catch, because when they cut this edge would have flared up. So don't worry about the edge. Yes, wonderful. So I have checked the inlet and exhaust of the left side. Now I have to repeat the same for the right side, and for that I have to move this . For that, I have to align this line with this. Okay, now I am going to move this R in line with that. And I am going to spin the rear wheel till that happens. So on the exhaust side, I have set it as 0.18 again. It drags well. That drags well too. So it should not be too tight, it should not be too loose. Like it should not slip out like this. You know, if I let it, it should not fall out. But when I pull it out, it should drag. Like I should feel it drag. So this side, the exhaust side is right. See, there is still some play there. Can you see that? Let me focus it. This is good. So now I will move on to the inlet side for the right hand side. So I wipe it clean with a piece of paper and okay, it's too tight. The inlet is really tight. And again, I'll tell you why it is tight once I finish this video. There too it is tight. Okay friends, I have checked, rechecked, checked again. The left and right tolerances, they are good now. And just sanity check. It should not be super tight. I don't know if you can see it, this still moves a little bit. Just like how this moves. This moves too. Okay, Let me see if I can show. Maybe you can't see it in the phone, but there is a little bit of movement here, which means that this is not crashing into that. I can feel it with my hand, and this is obvious because it even makes a noise. I'm going to check it on that side too, and then start to close it all up. Now obviously, to check on this side, again you have to align that line. See, right now this left is aligned, so I checked the left side on that side. For me to check this side, I have to align this with this vertical bar. Okay, I've overshot, so I'm going to back off a little bit. Okay, now it is aligned. Super. So it's all good. Whew. So now tell me which mechanic is going to take so much time to look at it. Of course, there may be one or two, but your average Royal Enfield Service Center mechanic is not going to do this with the passion and the care that I'm going to do it with. Is that the right way to say it? Whew, I'm too tired. So before I start to put everything back together, I'm going to check one last time if all the lock nuts are tight. You can't tighten them to crazy torque, but okay, this is tight. That's tight. That's tight. That's tight. And I'm going to check the same way on the other side too. Yeah, I'll take you to the other side just for the sake of completeness. That's tight. That's tight. That's tight. And that's tight. So friends, I have screwed in the spark plugs and tightened them, and before I proceed to put on the rocker cover, I have to clean this area with my fingernail, not with any metal tool, because Royal Enfield has put some silicone paste here to avoid any leakages, and I have to remove that paste with my fingernail. The reason being that this is made of aluminum alloy, and if I use some metal on it, I will scratch it and gouge it. But I think I've done a reasonably good job. It's clean. This area. So the next step is to put this gasket on to the rocker cover.
Okay, maybe it goes this way. Yes, it goes this way. So I have to flip it around like this. So I think you get the idea of how to do it. Now this will hold. This is not going to fall down so easily. This will hold.
The next step is to first have clean hands, okay, and then just clean the surface and apply a dab of this silicone, RTV high temperature silicone, just a little bit, okay? Not inside, not outside, just on that surface. I'll do it and show it to you. Okay, so I've applied that. Now I'm going to put the valve cover back on.
Okay, now you know why you have to remove the ABS unit, the screw of the ABS unit. Okay, so now it has got a good seat, and I'm going to put on the headboards. I can see that it is seating well all around. You can see that it is sitting well all around. And I'll put the rocker cover bolts on. 1, 2, 3 and 4.
So now I am putting the rocker cover bolts. So these are called collar bolts, okay? This is going to press on the head. You can't over tighten these. The best idea is to just tighten them lightly, and if it gets loose after 500 or 100 or 50 kilometers, progressively tighten them as needed. So right now I'm just going to tighten them to a very low torque. I'm sure there is some torque specification specified in the Royal Enfield manual, which I didn't read because I don't own a torque wrench, which I probably should, but I don't own it. So now I have tightened the rocker cover. You can see the torque, it's not much, just one finger. That's it. And now I'm going to put this ABS unit back in its place and then start to put all the other things back in the bike. So the next thing I'm going to do is put the tank back, and for that, in preparation for the tank to go back, I'm going to place these two pieces of wood exactly where those two bolts are supposed to be, and then I'm going to start buttoning it up from this end. This is the fuel level indicator sender, and then here is the fuel pipe for the fuel rail, common rail, which is the fuel injector, and then here is the connector for the fuel pump, and here are two hoses. I assume that one is a drain hose and the other one is a vacuum hose. I do not know what they are for, but I'm just going to button them up as I took them off.
So either you work with a really light tank or you have to have some help. I'm unable to put my fuel tanks underneath. Look at that. Look at that. Look at that. Good. Super. So, I'll bring it in. I'll put it in. Okay, I'll put it in. Itu
So the work is 90% done. I have put the tank, but I have not tightened it with a spanner. Now I am just going to turn on the key and make sure that there is no leak from the fuel rail. Okay, the fuel pump has worked and I see no leak from the fuel rail. Fuel rail is this thing that connects, you know, we heard of CRD, right, common rail diesel engine. Rail is basically a chamber where the fuel is there all the time for the pump to pump immediately, or the injector to pump immediately. So far so good. Ridiculous the kind of service they do when you give your bike for servicing in the name of lubricating your chain. They've pretty much made a mess of your entire rear section. So anyway, it is what it is. I'm going to check for leaks. So far so good, nothing. Okay, so it looks okay, right? I don't see any oil leaks from the head or from the rocker cover. Everything seems okay, and the gasket seems to be sitting okay. And now I have to put on the horn back. The reason why I tested it before I put the horn back is because if there was some problem, I have to work on it again.